Hey buddy, you ready to talk about some tapes? Oh, okay, good. We'll talk about tapes then. Hey there, how you doing? How's the kids? Welcome back. You're with Pat down here at Ground Zero Salem, and we're listening to Phane right now. This is a self-titled LP that came out earlier this year, much earlier, I think January, and it's just great metal punk stuff, strong influence of Broken Bones and Forward into Battle, English Dogs, stuff along those lines, a lot of choking up on the E, that kind of tight picking, early speed and thrash metal mixed with Discharge, that kind of stuff. I pulled this down again just because I wanted to give you a closer look at the art there. I love these goblins with charges and stuff, and spiky punk orc army. I just love that stuff. There's a Grim Reaper in the back. He's calling the shots, telling them where to go. Fun shit. So I got a bunch of tapes I'm going to talk about this update. Some new releases. I haven't really talked about new releases that much in the past year or so, I feel like. There's always one or so thrown in with updates, but I'm such a perpetual filler of holes in my collection that I've been kind of not really paying that much attention to so much new stuff the past year or so. Well, that's going to change this update. I've got some new stuff to talk about. Then I have some reissues, handful of reissues from the past couple years, and then some original pressing stuff that I'm going to discuss like I always do. Babble at you about tapes. So, first up we got Sentinel. This is a new release. It just came out. I just got it. I pre-ordered it. I was very curious about it. It's a bunch of guys from Richmond, Virginia, from the hardcore scene down there. Singer's name is Ace. He was the booker for that United Blood Festival that was huge down there for a long time. Hopefully it'll be kicking off again now that things are opening up. He also does the Forum of Passion podcast, which is one of my favorite podcasts to listen to currently. Guy's just a good interviewer, gets good stories out of people and stuff. So music on this is very much indebted to Motorhead, very much indebted to Venom and kind of rock and roll sort of leaning metal stuff, as well as some Japanese hardcore influences, Blazing Spirits, stuff like that. There's a Bastard cover of Dear Cops on it. Gives you an idea what the influences are. And it's executed pretty well. There's a good attention paid to like tempo shifts, which I think is something that is a bonus coming from that end of the hardcore scene. Just the dynamics of changing tempos. There's some real pounding mid-pace stuff that they came up with that I think was really cool and really unique to them. The vocals kind of remind me of Jack Kelly a little bit from Slapshot, but also not at other times. So definitely worth checking out. Really cool. They're on Bandcamp. I'm going to put links for everything as usual. then in a similar vein, we've got Violent Spirit from Finland. This has members of Phane and probably other stuff involved with all those bands. It's a very incestuous scene there. Phane members included for sure, though. This is just a 3-song release and is also very, very influenced by Japanese hardcore. A lot of those blazing melodic leads that the Blazing Spirits bands had. Strong Motorhead influence. I'm also getting a little bit of like super early Metallica with this. You know, some international hardcore influences that here and there, but super fast, very sharp-edged, very enjoyable stuff. Then we've got the new Wheel, Preserved in Time. I think it was Rick from the Dreadful Minutes recommended this to me, and I was like, yeah, because I had one of their earlier releases that I thought was okay, but not okay enough not to flip. Got rid of it. Thought the vocals were a little weak, and if it's the same vocalist, I'm not sure, I didn't look into that. If it's the same vocalist from back then, I think that release was almost 10 years ago. The guy's improved a lot, like tenfold. It's pitch perfect, epic doom stuff. Falls somewhere in sound for me between Solitude Aeternus and Hour 13. Doesn't get too slow, doesn't pick up too much. Suitably melancholic. Great soaring vocals. Very crushing. It's got a lot of those Eastern scales that Solitude Aeternus utilized on their records past Into the Depths of Sorrow, I feel. You know what I'm talking about if you're a nerd about that kind of stuff. It's very, very good. The riffs on it are wonderful. Definitely a high-rated Doom record for this year. I think it's the only new Doom record I've listened to from 2021, but it's my favorite. top Doom record right here. We'll see what else comes out. If it's anything I notice or know of. Then we got Dodsrit, Mortal Coil. Swedish, I believe, solo project that's put out a bunch of stuff. This is their third release. Been around for a minute, 3 or 4 years, I think. I've talked about all the Dodsrit releases to date on the channel, I think. I was very excited about their debut demo / EP. I was not quite as excited about Spirit Crusher, which came out on Prosthetic a year or two ago. I thought it was decent. Kind of too cleanly produced for my tastes, but it was okay. Dodsrit, if you aren't aware, are a black metal band that kind of involve equal amounts of atmospheric black metal as well as sort of melodic D-beat along the lines of tragedy, that kind of crusty, if you want to be pejorative, stadium crust kind of sound. A mixture of that and atmospheric black metal really is the best way to describe it, I think. And on this one, he ties the two together really well and involves sort of like a dissection or early Marduk when they were still really melodic kind of bent to it. It's got a very like icy Swedish melodicism to it in terms of the black metal it's pumping out there, and it's really, really good. Very, very catchy. Again, only listened to it a couple of times, but it might be my favorite release so far from Dodsrit. I was kind of losing it with them. I was like, I don't know if I really... The Spirit Crusher's fine, but I was really blown away by the debut, and this kind of picks up where that left off, so... Great. Then we've got Cerebral Rot, Excretion of Mortality. So I've been kind of taking a break from the quote-unquote OSDM stuff coming out for a while, year and a half, 2 years. Just slowing down with it because I've been so fervent about it for quite a while. Almost like 10 years, because I feel like all that stuff started kind of picking up steam in like the late aughts, you know? Just so much of it was coming out and kind of starting to sound the same. But a lot of people had been talking about this, and it's very good. I'm glad I bought it. Came out on 20 bucks spin this year. I decided to go for the tape just because I like the packaging. It's not too different from the last one. A little bit more together, a little bit more memorable, maybe a bit more upbeat in terms of like tempos and stuff like that, but it's really, really detuned, really, not to overuse adjectives, but definitely cavernous. But you don't get lost in it, it doesn't go into, there's actual riffs, it doesn't go into like weird, noisy kind of stuff, which is never my bag when people go for that almost sort of blackened approach with mixing it with cavernous death metal or doomy death metal. Yeah, it's got good riffs, it's catchy, I enjoy it. I'm going to turn the record over. 1 second. Then Ghastly, Mercurial Passages. Really like the previous Ghastly that also came out on 20 bucks spin. Finnish band, two-man project. Death Velour was really, really good. This is very much along the same lines. Very gloomy in the traditional Finnish way. Death metal, gloomy yet melodic. Sort of, doom influence, but I wouldn't say it's really death doom. It's got a style that's not really guttural. It's kind of more mid-level rasp with the vocals. Pretty engaging. Speeds it up just enough to keep you interested. It's not one slog all the way through. Very enjoyable stuff from Ghastly there. Then we've got Direct Threat. This is a hardcore band with a strong Oi influence from the United States. Can't remember where, so I'll leave a caption. This came out on Iron Lung. I just got an alert on my Bandcamp saying Iron Lung just released this, and Iron Lung is probably right behind Youth Attack and stuff that is so hyped that it sells out immediately, and I was like, why not? It just got put up, I'll buy it. I remember when I went to the cart, it said only 3 remaining, and it had just been announced. And it's worth it. It's very good. I can see where the hype is deserved with this. I'd never heard this band before. I just got the alert. And it's raw, nasty, blown-out, Oi-influenced hardcore stuff. Really anthemic. It's got that kind of production that, Urban Blight from Canada had. You could compare the production to a lot of, Japanese D-beat sort of stuff. Everything's in the red. But through it all, kind of raucous choruses and the really rough, kind of shouty vocals come through excellently. Really good. Also, the Bootlicker LP that came out this year is in a similar vein and also really good. I should be getting that at some point. I'll be talking about that when I do vinyl. And then finally, for the new releases, we've got the Sarin Reaper Cassette. This band's from Kansas City. This is a great tape. It's short and sweet, to the point. Really nasty hardcore punk that's basic and straightforward, but doesn't really sound like anything else. There's some real scathing, almost like shrieky, I wouldn't say black metal, maybe the higher end of grind kind of vocals involved, as well as some growls. They're kind of vocally doing a lot. They're kind of all over the place, which I enjoy. It's just sloppy enough to keep the energy levels up and make it exciting without sounding like it's falling apart. It doesn't detract. Just metallic enough to keep my interest. Quite good. So for the reissues, first up we've got the Minus Years from Merauder. This is exciting. This is a combined effort from a couple labels, Static Era and Upstate. Merauder was a band, like, their demos were always kind of like talked about as a legendary status kind of thing, along with the Leeway demos, the Breakdown demos. There's all these late 80s, early 90s demos that were really important to New York hardcore. What's pretty cool to me is I knew of a demo featuring a vocalist named Minus, and then another demo featuring Eddie Sutton from Leeway. I didn't know that there were 3 whole demos with Minus. I think this stuff was recently unearthed, a lot of this material. A lot of it gets recycled, a lot of it ends up on the Master Killer record, which came out in, I want to say 93 or 94 on Century Media. A great piece of early metalcore or metallic hardcore or even crossover, call it whatever you want. Super NYHC rhythmic, ass-beating, kind of like New York hardcore meets Bolt Thrower and Slayer kind of style. If you haven't heard that record, if that sounds like something you'd like, it will absolutely blow you away. It's very well written, very fucking heavy. And this is like a lot of the embryonic versions of songs that would end up on that. There's probably a handful that didn't end up on it. My decrepit brain can't remember off the top of my head. But you can kind of hear the evolution over time as the band gets progressively heavier from the 91 to 93, finally to 94 demo. There's all kinds of great jams on here, like Master Killer, the title track from the record, Final War, Fear of Sin. I'd say beginning, when this band started off, they easily could have just been considered a straight-up crossover band. All great material. It's nice to see this finally seeing the light of day. Next up, Savage Grace, Master of Disguise. It's a sleazy speed metal classic from LA. Real nasty. So much energy behind this. I mean, it's got melodic vocals. It's got fast enough to be considered speed metal. Call it whatever you want. Early US power metal. It doesn't matter. It's through the roof, like paint peeling, energetic, nasty metal stuff. Chromium Dioxide talked about it a while ago, and I was like, I gotta own that one. I have another one of their LPs, and it's great, but I knew that this was the white hot one to pick up. It's got a cool red shell there. Headsplit re-released it, I want to say in 2020. It was recent. Then we got another Headsplit reissue, the Destructor Maximum Destruction LP. I had a live 7-inch, but I actually still do have a live 7-inch that came with a Snake Pit mag. And I always really liked this band. Clevo band, grade A Clevo steel right here. Heavy, pretty much thrash, but with really powerful, almost kind of power metal vocals. Nice set of pipes, belts it out. Great stuff. Next up, Zoetrope, Life of Crime. You know, I could have sworn, I have this Mandela effect thing with this band's name. I looked it up for research purposes / nerdiness. A zoetrope is the early animation styles where it's like a cylindrical thing with the slits in it, and there's a bunch of, it's like an early flipbook version of like animation, if you know what I'm talking about. It's where they got their name from. But I remember a bunch of people saying that the correct pronunciation years ago was E-trope. But I just looked it up and it said zoetrope. I don't know why I'm talking about this. I've been listening to this band constantly lately. I also have their other album, Amnesty, on CD. This band smokes. I don't know where they've been all my life. I actually owned one of their records years and years ago and wasn't impressed by it. I have no idea why. Because this is a great combination of just the type of stuff that went into create the early thrash wave, Kill 'Em All, and Fistful of Metal and stuff like that, as well as just ballsy street rock and roll. Not street rock in the oi sense, but shit like Kiss. You know, even the vocalist sounds a bit like Paul Stanley. You know, it's just real, like, you know, fist in the gutter, denim vest, like, awesome rock-influenced early speed metal thrash, I guess. It's got great kind of, like, you know, Motorhead-style riffs, like the blues riff played, like, 900 times faster, that sort of thing. This band's so good. Chicago metal. Most underrated metal scene ever, I swear. Amnesty is highly recommended as well. Then we got Scanner Hypertrace. There's not too much I can say about this that hasn't been said by Marty Worm or Alan from Let's Talk Metal, but it's a great piece of German speed metal with really powerful soaring vocals and really, really tight musicianship and shredding guitars. German stuff, 88, Noise Records. Enough of my friends were talking about this, I was like, I need a copy on tape. Fear of God. Talked about Fear of God recently, Toxic Voodoo. This is the debut Within the Veil Again, I talked about Detent a little bit, and a few people mentioned, like, oh yeah, Don Crosby from Detent sang For Fear of God. And then I got a rush of flashbacks from Headbangers Ball and seeing the music video on there. And this is very, like, forward-thinking for the time. It's sort of in the vein of some thrash, but there's some really almost kind of progressive elements to it. You can tell they were listening to some Fates Warning, maybe some proggy stuff, Queensryche, but it's also very, 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 very pitch black, dark, atmosphere-wise to it. There's some clean guitar and, like, kind of like arpeggio, echoey stuff going on. Yeah, it's got a real creepy vibe, and really, really heavy parts when it gets going. And then finally, another classic, Attacker, Battle at Helm's Deep. I enjoyed this immensely, but it's not quite what I was expecting. I'd seen the artwork for years. It's probably come across my path on, like, YouTube playlists and stuff. It's good, but it reminds me of something closer to, say, like a Cirith Ungol, and even early LA metal before there was the divide of, like, glam and heavier stuff, like Rat and Dokken and stuff like that, as opposed to, like, a proto-speed metal sort of thing. It's got a sort of like a shake your ass, like LA rock out kind of vibe to it, as opposed to like a real Swords of Sorcery sort of thing. You know, a little bit in moments, you know, it gets into that like pull your broadsword out mightily, you know, but it's got more of like a sleazy kind of vibe to it to me. But that just might be my impression. My opinions on stuff are to be taken with a huge grain of salt. But yeah, I found an original copy sealed for pretty cheap. So, cool record, cool, you know, artifact of its time for sure. And that's it. That's fun. And I like fun. You have fun. And I'll see you back here when I see you. Bye.